Now, the challenge was to fit out the interior and transform the Titanic into a floating palace. No expense was to be spared in making her the most luxurious liner ever built.
What I want to know next is how the interior of the ship was built. Harland & Wolff did not spare any money. They brought in thousands of master craftsmen to construct the most luxurious interior of the Titanic. So what I want to do is to go into the world of those master craftsmen and understand how they worked.
Historian Jennifer Regan has come to Belfast City Hall to meet with Una Riley. This building was opened in 1906, just 1 year before the Titanic was commissioned. Today, it is a great showcase of the grand design and expert craftsmanship which built the Titanic. The ornate wooden paneling, decorated ceilings, fixtures, and fittings were all the finest of their time. Many of the craftsmen and artisans who would go on to work on the Titanic worked here first.
Now, I've heard that the City Hall is actually called the Stone Titanic locally. Why is that?
That is true, because it was conceived around the same time as the Titanic was being conceived, and Lord Perry, who had been a former Lord Mayor, he was involved with the construction and design of this, and it's felt that he took some of the designs from here to the Titanic.
What I love about this room is all the period detailing, because it was built just 6 years before the Titanic. So it's really the same kind of period in design. And there's so much detail in the ceiling, in all this cornicing, in these columns. We've got the stained glass windows. They're beautiful.
Absolutely. I mean, they didn't do things by half in Belfast at the beginning of the 20th century. Everything was done to the best, to the highest, to the best specification, just like Titanic.
The first-class accommodation would rival any grand hotel on land, and its centerpiece would be the sweeping grand staircase which led from the promenade deck to a vast paneled dining room. In order to know what the Titanic's interior really looked like, Jennifer has traveled from Belfast to Northumberland in the northeast of the British Isles. Here in the ancient town of Alnwick, she has uncovered an exact copy of the Titanic's first-class dining room. When the White Swan Hotel was refurbished in 1936, they used interior fittings and furnishings from the Titanic's sister ship, Olympic. The Olympic's interiors were identical to the Titanic's. The ships were designed and built by the same Belfast craftsmen. And in the lobby of the hotel is the last remaining section of the grand staircase from the first-class saloon.
So, John, what can you tell me about this magnificent carved staircase?
Wonderful example. This is the last surviving part of the grand staircase from RMS Olympic, identical to what was on RMS Titanic in 1912 when she sank. This is quite unique because there is no other grand staircase left in the world from the Olympic-class liners.
The breathtaking detail of the hotel dining room reveals more evidence of the skills and expertise of the Belfast shipworkers. The ceilings, windows, light fittings, and the exquisite wood paneling all reflect the golden age of sea travel. Here is a rare opportunity to sense what life must have been like on board the Titanic.
So, John, standing here is about as close as we can get to what it would have felt like inside the Titanic dining room.
Absolutely, yes.
We've got these incredible plasterwork ceilings, we've got stained glass, we've got all these panels. There's just so much to take in.
Yes, absolutely original. Obviously, the first-class dining room on Olympic was a lot larger than this. We're talking maybe probably 10 times larger than this.
That's enormous. I want to know more about this woodwork. It's incredible.
It is. The craftsmanship here is absolutely amazing. Now, the Olympic carvings were all made at Harland & Wolff, same as the ones in Titanic. And the craftsmen spent many hours working day and night to produce all this marvelous workmanship.
Peary knew that this was the best way to attract big spending clients.
John, I can tell from looking at this woodwork that they were working towards a very demanding clientele.
Absolutely. This is first-class panel at its very best in the height of 1911, 1912.
And no detail is spared. Tell me about this light fitting here. It's bronze.
These are absolutely original to the ship. Yes, they are bronze. There was hundreds of these on board.
And of course, state-of-the-art because they are electric.
Yes, they are. Yes. very
Beautiful.
much so.
Every detail of the room is themed, a clue to its function.
I'll bring this to your attention. We have some musical notes up here and symbols on a piece of paperwork, all carved into the woodwork.
That's a music book that's open.
Yes, absolutely. And it's all hand-carved by those workmen in Harland and Wolff.
That's incredible. That's
And
so tiny.
the whole room is music-oriented. We have guitars.
So it's a room that was used for entertainment.
Very much
So all
so.
these symbols of entertainment
Although,
and
yes.
enjoyment.
Absolutely. This room, although apart from being used as a first-class dining room, was also used for dancing and for music.
I mean, this really demonstrates to me the level of detail that went into this room. And it's absolutely staggering when you think about the number of people that would have had to have been working on a room like this to produce this level of detail.
John White has a unique collection of memorabilia and artifacts from both the Olympic and the Titanic. Again, these relics reveal an outstanding level of craftsmanship and dedication.
When I see the level of detail that went into the interior of ships like the Titanic, it gives me a sense of actually the scale of the workforce that would have been involved in the interiors, the craftsmen, metalwork, the glassware, the china, every detail down to the door handles. And that really shows me how important the Titanic was for Belfast and how it helped build this city, which was buzzing with activity and master craftsmen.
At 8 o'clock on the evening of April 2nd, 1912, the Titanic left Belfast for the last time. She was bound for Southampton, where she'd collect the passengers for a maiden transatlantic voyage. For Harland and Wolff, the sinking of the Titanic was the beginning of the decline. During the First World War, the yard continued to make ships, but the slipways and gantries, which were built for the Titanic, were never to see work on that scale again. Rupert Kayser has discovered one last relic of the shipyard's golden age. This small, almost derelict vessel, until recently lying forgotten in a harbor in France, is the Nomadic. It was her job to ferry first-class passengers from continental Europe to the harbor where they'd board the Titanic. Of all the ships built by Harland and Wolff during the glory days of the early 20th century, the Nomadic is the only one that remains. A team of volunteers intends to restore her to her original grandeur. Local historian Stephen Cameron explains to Rupert why the return of the Nomadic is so important to the people of Belfast.
The same steel, same material, the same rivets that are in this ship were also in Titanic as well. She's come home to Belfast, to the place where she was born, to the home of Titanic, and that's where she should be, and it's fantastic to have her back here in Belfast.
The Nomadic remains the last surviving link with the Titanic and Belfast's great era of shipbuilding. Nothing on the scale of the Titanic had ever been attempted before. It was the greatest engineering project of its time.
What's really impressed me is the sheer array of skills needed to build such a vessel. The parts needed to create Titanic, they range from some of the smallest ones like rivets, up to frames which were 80, 90 feet in length, plates that were 30 foot in length. All this amazing amount of material, all individually crafted, put together by hand to create the world's most luxurious ship.
What I've learned on my journey to rediscover the lost world of the Titanic is not only that White Star Lines built the most magnificent ocean liner the world had ever seen, but that they brought in an infrastructure into this booming city of Belfast. So not only did they build a huge shipyard, a community was being built as well around the shipyards, and that there were thousands of people, master craftsmen, shipyard workers, who were coming to this city to build this magnificent ship.
Although it ended in disaster and grief, the story of the Titanic is also one of skill, dedication, and extraordinary achievement.